given to Chelsea. McCready a little annoyed with the referee. They're not playing the advantage. Never an easy thing to do. But now here's Osgood with a great shot and a goal. And a goal by Osgood. Towers now with a deep corner. Somerby getting his head to it, turning it down, and Miller turning it in. And the goal given, 1-1, and Miller the scorer. Steve Kemba. Hudson. Towards Osgood, and Osgood got a head in and nodding it down there for Houseman, and a tremendous goal. A tremendous goal by the substitute.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on to the CFCDP YouTube channel. Have an awesome show prepared for you today for the Man City preview. A special shout out to Chelsea Look Back for that awesome clip of Jimmy Osgood scoring 2 goals against Man City. I'm here with Patrick and Jeremy. Patrick, a returning guest. Jeremy, first time on. Thanks for coming on, guys. We're here to talk a little bit about Man City Chelsea and probably the most tantalizing fixture that we've had at this point. Tuchel versus Pep, round 4 at this point. Pep's coming back for another round. Patrick, I will start and kick it off to you, my man. How's it going tonight?
Doing well, Dylan. Thanks for having me on again, and great to be on with Jeremy and ready to talk the game against Man City.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, what's going on, my man? Thanks for coming on. What are your early thoughts about what Man City are going to do, in this game? It seems like Pep kind of plays a roulette wheel with every time that he plays Chelsea. Is there anything specific that you think is going to happen?
Well, first off, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to join you guys on here to discuss this upcoming fixture, which I think is going to be a great one. And I think Pep personally is hungry for a win against TT, especially after how last season ended. He's probably been looking forward to this game all summer long. So I think they're going to come out looking to attack and keep the pressure on. And I think there's going to be a heavy storm that Chelsea's going to have to weather early on.
For sure. And I know we were talking about this pre-show, Patrick, but, when you look at Man City and Pep kind of changing his system for the bigger games, so far this season, we've seen them run a pretty standard 4-3-3. And now they've had injuries and, situations with the their Mendy situation, which has changed some of their lineups. But I mean, overall, do you think that we can expect a 4-3-3 from Man City?
I personally think that we could see that. I mean, you never know with Pep. Pep is known to tweak things, and he's, as we saw in the Champions League final, of course, sometimes he'll throw a wrench in the plans and he'll throw out something that no one expects. But they've really run a pretty consistent 4-3-3 this season, and that might be because of the fact that Kevin De Bruyne has been injured a lot, and Phil Foden's been hurt. But I think that we could still see the 4-3-3. They've had relative success with it this season, and even though they don't have especially because they don't really have that out and out attacker like they had when they had maybe like Sergio Aguero. But I definitely think that we can see that 4-3-3 formation that they stick with.
Yeah, and Jer, I think we were talking about it before. It's that Kevin De Bruyne factor is definitely something that Chelsea is going to have to account for. De Bruyne starting against Leipzig on the right side of that 3-man midfield, and also against Wickham as well. I mean, when you look at Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, obviously he's a great player, but what does he do specifically for Man City that it's going to make such a big difference?
Oh, to Man City, he's a game changer. One moment of brilliance in a second, a pass that no one else on that team can play, that just carves the defense up like sliced bread. It's truly world class when he's on. The thing is, this injury that's been lingering, he hasn't really gone into full form as of yet. But coming off early against Chelsea previously, and that was a big blow for them. I think he's kind of their X factor. If he has a moment of brilliance, it can change the whole game in a second.
And you're 100% right. I mean, Romelu Lukaku knows that as well, his Belgian teammate. And I agree with you both. I think Kevin De Bruyne is just a sensational player at the end of the day. He is his ability. He's kind of like just got a magic foot in some sense. He is like the FIFA cheat code. He can shoot from anywhere, and he can do it for them, which is super impressive. So we're talking also before about their front three and how there is no out and out number 9. I know, Jeremy, you had discussed earlier, you think Torres may be in that middle spot for them. Patrick, what do you think? I mean, they don't have that out and out number 9. And is that against Chelsea's defense, where I could see it being a Man City ball possession type of game? Are they going to be able to break us down without that out and out number 9, do you think? I mean, because they really attack from the wings. And in the more often than not, you look against Spurs and Southampton. Those are 2 teams that really did sit in a low block like Chelsea might. I just don't know if Man City is going to be able to score. I mean, it's kind of like the Champions League all over again. I mean, There's only so many tricks that you can do to try to score on a low block that's as solid as Chelsea's.
Yeah, and sometimes when you play with a back three, one of the downsides to that can be that you're susceptible to attacks on the wings. But because of the fact that we have speed on those, like in Antonio Rudiger, who's probably our fastest player, and even someone who I think has underrated speed in Andreas Christensen, we've been able to try to nullify what someone like the likes of a Jack Grealish or a Gabriel Jesus or someone like that can do, on those right and left attacking flanks. So I think because our defenders are so well drilled into the formation that Thomas Tuchel makes us play, I think that we kind of have Man City's number as Thomas Tuchel has proven 3 times before, that without that out and out number 9 to kind of try to be that focal point in attack like we have now in Romelu Lukaku, I think it would be a problem if we didn't have some speed in the back. And then you have someone in the center, maybe a Thiago Silva that knows how to direct that back three and lead that back three. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we've got people like I said, Antonio Rudiger, Andreas Christensen, to nullify some of that speed, I think that that's going to help us against any potential attacks that they throw at us.
Yeah, I mean, Jared, what are your thoughts on that? I think when Patrick brings up a lot of good points about the speed and the ability to stop in transition of our center backs. I saw Trev do a fantastic job against Aston Villa, stopping a lot of attacks in the Carabao Cup, and Christensen did a similar job for us against Spurs. I mean, just speak a little bit about our back three. And if you want to mention who you think is going to start, please do. But I mean, having a back three like this is just such an advantage against a team like City.
I mean, we'll get to our starting 11, and I won't spoil that as of yet, but I think that the key is going to be who's in midfield to also help cover that back three. Mm-hmm. That's going to be huge. Mm-hmm. Playing that back 5, the difference against Villa is we held possession. We were up the field a lot more, so they had the chance to hit us on the counter. I think at least in the beginning of this game, we're going to be sitting back a lot more. So I think we're going to be a lot more compact and a lot more solid in the back. I don't think we're going to be caught out as often. I think that Thomas essentially might be employing the same game plan he kind of did in the Champions League final. Mm-hmm. I think in terms of defense, I don't think City will face a tougher defensive opponent than Chelsea. I think we truly are as balanced as it can get. We have players that help other players in terms of making up for their weaknesses with their strengths. And I think that every player in this back 5 knows their role, and that's incredibly massive.
Yeah. And Jared, do you think we can expect that Man City is going to be the team on the front foot with possession, but would you almost kind of, if you were Tuchel, say, all right, well, maybe we should take control of the game. Maybe we should possess the ball, put them in a bad spot. Because if you look at their center backs, I mean, they have Ake and Diaz right now. Stones and Laporte hurt. Potentially we could see Stones get back in that starting lineup against Chelsea. He was in training as of today. I mean, do we want to see Chelsea take that front foot? Because I think obviously while we are a great counterattack team and we're able to do that, I think it might be an interesting strategy to go at City's defense. I don't know if that's going to happen necessarily, and it may happen at some points of the game, just like most games do. You always have spells with the ball, but I think it might be interesting for Chelsea and Tuchel to say, hey, you know what? This isn't last year's Chelsea team. I mean, we have Romelu Lukaku. We have a system that works for us, and they may be playing that 3-5-2 also. I think it's something that definitely needs to be thought about. I just want to know what your thoughts were.
That's definitely a valid point. My thing in terms of that will be pretty much answered when we see the lineup based on the players he employs, on how he's going to go about this game and how his tactical game plan is. Even as of recent games, a lot of people have been complaining how slow Chelsea has started. And it's really required a nice big halftime talk from Thomas Tuchel or making these substitutions to really get Chelsea going, especially offensively. Defensively, against Tottenham, we had a lot of scares. And even against Villa, there was some clear one-on-ones that we kind of got away with. So I can definitely see that. Hopefully we don't get off to that slow start, because Man City is a team that's going to punish us if that happens.
Yeah, and they are a great squad, and they will punish us, Patrick. I mean, when you also kind of look at Man City in general, like I mentioned with the defensive issues, is that something that you would maybe try to do if you were Tuchel? Maybe try to take the game to them a bit? I mean, we're going to be at home. It's going to be, a good atmosphere for us to do such a thing. I think it's something that's maybe worth a shout. Now, is that going to happen the whole game? Like I mentioned, for sure not. We're going to be able to counter them. Man City's definitely going to be able to dictate their possession, but I think it's something that could be a valid argument.
Yeah, I think that being at home can be a really, really big factor about that, because you also want to have the crowd to play a factor in the game as well. So if you come out and really take it to City and show them that you have an attacking intent, a 3-5-2, depending on who you employ, allows you to have control of that midfield and that creativity to potentially take it to City. And I think if we get a goal, I could see this team, as Chelsea does so many times, if we can get a goal, and then maybe we'll sit back and absorb pressure and go into that comfort zone, I think, that we have sometimes, of really absorbing that pressure and then going on the counter. Because if you have someone like Timo Werner in there who can, in that 3-5-2, who could play off of a Lukaku, he did that obviously a lot at RB Leipzig when he played there. And I think that if you do that if you can go ahead and nick that goal, you're going to have the fans behind you. You're going to have the supporters who have been fantastic this season in full voice. And it's going to be different than, say, it was last season when you didn't have fans in the stands. And that really is a huge advantage that we haven't gotten to enjoy yet this season, because look, we've played Tottenham on the road. We've played Liverpool on the road. We've played Arsenal on the road. So,
yeah,
we really haven't gotten to enjoy that Stamford Bridge faithful for a big game like this yet. So I think the fact that you make a good point, because of the fact that we're going to be at home, I could see Thomas Tuchel trying to go out and try to make a statement to show them, look, this isn't the Chelsea of last year. This is a new Chelsea with, Lukaku up front, and we're the same defensively solid team, but we've also got an attacking outlet that you can maybe argue, to me, it's true that the attacking intent we didn't have last season.
I think that's very well said. And one thing that I did notice from kind of the difference in this, obviously there is a squad rotation built into this, but when you look at the Aston Villa game, right after we scored that first goal, you're looking at about maybe like a 5-6 minute stretch of the game where we could have probably scored like 2 or 3 more right away. Mm-hmm. And then but then Aston Villa comes back and they get that score. Now, say that's Man City, if we get one, the time is now to push. I think if you look at that next 5 minutes and you have the momentum, you have the crowd behind you, you got to be chasing that second goal, in my opinion. While we are able to sit back and absorb pressure, even in the Champions League final, there was a few chances where Man City could have definitely tied that game. We're frankly a little lucky. I mean, I think it was Mahrez at the end of the game almost put one in to tie it. but if you compare that to the Tottenham game, you're looking at a 6-minute stretch or whatever where we score 3 goals. We put it on them right away, and you took those chances. So while as much as I think that Chelsea are able to sit back and absorb a 1-0 lead, you don't always want to do that. If you have to, that's fine. But if you want to really, really put it on teams, you got to chase that second goal. And if it happens within 5 minutes, that's going to be the game right there. Overall, I love what Tuchel does and everything like that. But if there's one thing that I would say they need to do is they need to kill games off earlier. Kill them off and go up 2 and then sit back all you want and counter them. Fine with me. So Pat, you were getting into a little bit about the formation, that 3-5-2. We've seen it now twice in the last 2 second halves with Lukaku and Timo, and I think we've seen pretty good returns from it, albeit I think Timo had an assist against Tottenham and a couple of good chances against Villa. Jared, I just wonder, is that something that you're going to see against Man City? Are they going to – is Tuchel – I mean, you can't look into his head, but would you start Timo, or would you be, kind of going back to like a Kai situation? I mean, Kai could also play as the 2 up top. It's very possible. Is there any way that you're leaning in terms of the formation? And then if it is 3-5-2, who is that second guy up there with him? Jared, I can't hear you.
My bad. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Right. I was just saying that I think they're going to start out with a 3-4-3, and he's going to keep that back 3-5-2 in his back pocket, and I can totally see that in the beginning it's going to be a free-flowing game, but I think City's going to start out with the pressure, but I think it's going to balance out. I don't think City's just going to be down our throats the whole game. I think it's going to be very, very competitive and kind of end-to-end stuff. I think it's going to be very entertaining and giving the fans their money's worth. But in terms of the formation, I honestly think that Tuchel is going to start out with that 5-2-3 essentially on defense, and then the 3-4-3 when we're attacking. It's also going to depend who he's putting in, but I think he's going to roll with Timo. I don't think he's going to go with Kai up front. I think Timo's going to start there with Lukaku, and I think Mount is going to be that kind of third option who will sit back and kind of make it a 3-5-2 if necessary, but also has the ability and the freedom to move up into a 3-4-3 when we're attacking.
I mean, that would be awesome because it's a flexible system at that point, and they can do it. And that's what Mason Mount kind of gives you. And I thought it was and I said this in my last video, I thought it was such an awesome change to put him in for Conte, because Mason Mount is not a left winger, in my opinion. He's played, his versatility is almost a detriment to him, because team coaches are like, oh, well, he can play anywhere. He can play left wing. He can play up with a striker up top. But once you really look into him, that box-to-box role in a 3-5-2 is built for him. It's built for him because he has the work rate. He can play defense. He can step up, and he can give you that goal threat. So when you have N'Golo Kante there, he scored the goal against Spurs, but it was a deflection. He's not necessarily that end product in the final third. But Mason Mount is probably, if you look at defense, just general midfield, and then offense, he's probably a 7, 8, 7.5 all the way across. So when you have that type of box-to-box guy, he's able to fit that role perfectly for what Tuchel needs. And if you start Mount in that box-to-box role, you get the lead. Well, now you can put Conte in that spot, because Conte is going to work even better on that defensive side. And N'Golo is underrated in the final third. I think his ability is good, but if you're talking just like the final end product, I would obviously take Mason over him. But Pat, when we start talking about the midfield in general, what could you see for that pairing, and does that affect what happens with your lineup, like having like what Jared said about the 3-5-2 kind of going into the 3-4-3?
I had a very similar idea to what Jared was saying. I mean, the pairing that I would go with, just because it's just basically what I prefer, is I like a Conte Jorginho pairing. I just like the dynamic that they bring in. Conte's able to roam around and do what he does best, right? Is go and just break up play, be a shield for be a shield for that back three in a weird way, not by sitting still, but by going around and just breaking up play only like he can do. He's so unique, and he's the only midfielder in the world that does it exactly the way he does. But then Jorginho really gives you that natural shield because he sits back and he stays in one place, and he's able to be that regista, that can spray the ball around. And he's been obviously so sensational with that in the last year, and also in international play with Italy. So that would be that would be like my two that would stick there. I also had Mason Mount in there that Jera I thought expressed so well that he can kind of make it a 3-4-3 when he goes forward, but also like you said, Dylan, he can also come back and kind of play that box to box role that he can play so well, because I think Mason Mount's probably best position as a natural 8, but at the same time, he has the ability to go forward, and he has those moments of brilliance to where, he's shown that he can have some offensive output. But another thing I wanted to talk about with N'Golo Kante is exactly what you said, Dylan, that I think he's underrated about what he can do going forward. I think that his time under Sarri actually helped him, because it allowed him to develop more of that offensive game. And we saw when he came on at halftime to replace Mount against Tottenham, it completely changed the game. And when he went forward, he actually made some meaningful contributions to the offensive side of the game as well. I mean, he was on there, and you kind of thought it wasn't a like for like replacement, but the fact of the matter is, when we made that change, we scored 3 goals, in the second half. So it was so he has the ability to do that as well. So in essence, you have two guys that can contribute to the offensive side of the game, but also you've got someone like Conte that does what he does best, which is the defensive work. And then you've got Jorginho sitting in there. And it sounds really harsh to leave Mateo Kovacic out with how well he's played, but I'm just thinking of the job that Conte did in the Champions League final against City, and I just can't forget the role that he played in the he was the best player on the pitch. So I don't know if we'll see him, because he started that. I didn't love that he started the game against Villa, I'll be honest, but and you're trying to watch out for him like kid gloves, but I just think he's too important to the side to leave out. And Jorginho has obviously been almost undroppable to me. So that's the pairing I would go with.
It's kind of unbelievable, to be real with you, that it takes a coach like Thomas Tuchel to say, you know what, N'Golo and Mason, they're kind of similar. It wouldn't be something that I would just jump out and say right away, like, oh, who does Mason Mount remind you of? And you're like, well, N'Golo Kante. But it's like in an obscure way, but it works. And it's another shout out to Tuchel, because he just can't miss at this point, except with the starting lineups. We need to start out a little faster, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So I guess let's just kind of move into the starting 11. I know we kind of talked about it. We're kind of working backwards from the front. Jared, who is your starting 11? And you don't have to necessarily put it in a formation, because I know you said it's kind of like a hybrid. But if you want to just give us your starting 11, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think we are going to start out the same way we did in the Champions League, with that 3-4-3/5-2-3. I think Mendy's healthy. He's the goalkeeper, without a doubt. But I would not be shocked if he misses this one too. And I'm very confident in Kepa being, in goal for us, especially after his previous couple performances. I think he will do a great job in there. The back three is what's been giving me trouble. I think City's pace isn't going to allow us to have both Alonso and Aspie as our wing backs, because then I think we're just going to get tormented down the wings, and it's just going to be a long day for us. So I think Reece James has to start in at right wing back, especially after his previous performance against Villa. He was class, complete and utter class. And I think that Aspie is going to start due to his leadership, the captaincy. He's going to be in there at the right center back. I think this is where I've had trouble going back and forth between Thiago Silva and Christensen in the middle. I think Rudiger is a lock at left center back, but my question is, do you go with Thiago Silva or do you go with Christensen because of his pace in the middle? And I think that they're going to go back to Thiago Silva just because of his expertise in big games. You can rely on him. He was solid as a rock for us, and you know he's dependable and he's not mistake prone, which Christensen has been at times. And although he's been utter class since Tuchel took over, especially, but I think you go with that reliable Silva in the middle between Rudiger and Aspie. I think Alonso starts at left wing back. I was happy to see Chilwell get some game time, and he had a great performance. I know everyone, the penalty miss at the end of the game is going to stand out for most people, but I think throughout the game he was very solid on that left side for us. But I think Alonso is going to start out there, and I agree with Pat. I think it's going to be Conte and Jorginho manning the middle, with Mount coming in every now and then to help out. And then Lukaku and Timo Werner are going to start up front to play off each other, because Timo Werner truly creates so much space for Lukaku up there with those runs. It's the little things that he does, but they're so valuable, and not many can do it on our team.
Well said. Very well said. Pat, I'll just toss it over to you. The same question.
Well, my lineup is going to be very similar to Jair's, but I think if Mendy's healthy, you put him in, because I just think, I mean, he hasn't put a foot wrong, but in the same vein as Jair, if for some reason you want to protect Mendy and make sure he truly is 100%, I would have no problem putting in Kepa. I think he's been sensational. Yeah, and the most important thing is that his confidence is back. But I mean, I would probably go with Mendy. The back, I'm going to go for a back three. Antonio Rudiger is undroppable. He's just been an absolute beast. And I'm a little different from Jared on this. I am going to go for Thiago Silva in the center, but I'm going to go for Andreas Christensen on the right, because I just think that I think he's playing so well, and they've proven when playing together that they're still effective. And I don't think that Silva is quick enough to play on the outside. I think he's most effective in the center of the back three. And so I'm going to go for Christensen. And then as far as the wing backs, I just think because Thomas Tuchel has so much faith in him, I think we're going to see Marcus Alonso at that left wing back spot. And I think Jerry makes a good point about, the speed of the City wingers coming there, where Alonso's not the fastest, and I'm going to have Aspie out at the right wing back. I know he's not the fastest, but I think that Thomas Tuchel also depends on the speed of his outside center backs to kind of help make up for some of that lack of speed on the wing backs. And I just think he's going to have Aspie out there for, like Jared said, for leadership. And I've got Conte and Jorginho in the middle, Mount coming back to help out when, with that fluid formation. And I too have Lukaku and Werner up front. I think Jared said it perfectly. It's the little things that Timo Werner does. He may not be scoring a whole lot of goals, but we can't forget he had what, I think 13 assists last season or something along those lines, something very close to that. So there are goal contributions. And I know everyone's like, we didn't buy him for assists, we bought him for goals. But look, we have Lukaku who's taken some of the pressure off with some of the goals. I think that Werner is good, the thing about Werner is he's always working hard. He never gives up, and the crowd gets behind him. So I think that the crowd backing him is going to be a factor as well. And he's going to, Lukaku's going to help make life easier for him. And I just think that I think it could really work. And I think this is a game where Thomas Tuchel is probably confident enough where he could try it.
And I'm with you. We all have very similar lineups here. I have Mendy in goal. If he's healthy, I think it's kind of like not 100%, but if De Bruyne is in and he sees Kepa in goal, man, it's bombs away. I mean, if I was a coach, that's what I would say. And when you have such a stout defense and you are playing a low block, it's hard to score on whoever's our goalkeeper. But Tielemans in the FA Cup kind of showed that if you get an open avenue, they're going to shoot. So obviously, like you guys said, if Mendy's healthy, we're going to see Mendy there. My back line, Rudiger, I'm going to put Silva in the middle, and I think I'm going to put Christensen on right center back too. I think overall, I think that if you have Thiago Silva in, you can afford to have Aspie out, I think. in that, going to my wing backs, I have Alonso and Reece James. I just think that Reece James is able to handle City's wing attacks a little bit better than Aspie just because of his pace and strength, especially if they have Sterling on the outside, if that's who they opt for, as well as Grealish. I feel like Reece is a little more apt to be able to handle those guys just in a physical matter. If they're going to be countering us at any point during the game, I think that Reece is going to do that. And then you also have, when you have Reece there, you have his crossing ability, which is also a kind of a reason why I maybe wanted to put Aspie at right center back, because it's a great spot for Aspie to put the ball into the box. But I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a game of us crossing the ball in and hoping someone heads it in. I think it's going to be more of a free-flowing game, and I think the goals are going to come from angles and passes rather than crosses. I also went with Conte and Jorginho. I think Kovacic is rested because I think that he will play. He will start against Juventus. I think that's more of a match for him. A little bit more European, a little bit more open flowing for him. A little more room to dribble. And I also went with Mount, Lukaku, and Timo. I wouldn't discredit Kai. I think Kai definitely has a shout to start up top. I've seen it from him before. But I think that Timo, Pat, you mentioned about his assist totals, and he was so critical in that goal against Man City. I mean, he was so critical. He is what made it happen. Yes, Mount made the pass. Yes, Kai scored the goal. But if Timo does not pull that defender away, the space is not there. So, Man City players are going to know that, and they're going to know, okay, well, Timo is going to be doing that, and Lukaku is going to be running behind. We got to make a decision. You have to make a decision. You either have to throw more bodies back there. You either have to choose to stay with Lukaku, or you have to choose to let Timo run or stay with Timo. So it just puts a difficult situation for Pep to have to deal with overall. I just think it's going to be an amazing game. I don't see, you can see a lot of these top four matches, and they're a little slow. Kind of everyone's afraid to kind of make the mistake. I don't think they were going to see this. I think it's going to be a pretty open game overall. I can see that there's going to be goals in it. I guess if we want to just move into the predictions, I'll go first. I think that Chelsea is a side that is going to definitely be up to the challenge. Tuchel is for sure able to put together a game plan. While I just said there's going to be a lot of goals, I just had this weird feeling in my mind that maybe there won't be a lot of goals. I'm going to go – I think I'm either going to go a 1-1 draw, or I'm going to have Chelsea win 2-1. It's going to come down to it. I think both teams are going to score at least a goal, and I just think that Chelsea – may have the momentum going to the end. But yeah, Jer, what do you think?
This is a tough one. I've been kind of flip-flopping on it, just like you have. But I think Tuchel is going to put in another Tuchel masterclass for us. And I think that defense is going to hold up well. And I think we're going to exploit all their inconsistencies. They haven't had a consistent lineup essentially all season long due to injuries, fitness, whatever the case may be. And I really think that Lukaku is going to use his physicality and really cause problems to their back line. And I think our defense is going to hold up. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea.
Awesome. Pat?
Not to copy Jared, but I'm going for 2-0 Chelsea as well. A good Opta stat for you. In the last 12 meetings in the league between City and Chelsea, there's not been a draw. So I think City's won 7 and Chelsea's won 5. So I don't see a draw in this one either. Like you said, I think it's going to be open. I think there's going to be goals in it. I too, like Jared, have so much faith in our back line. I think that we're going to hold them up again. I just don't think that Pep has the answers to what Tuchel throws at him. And I don't, the third time wasn't a charm. I don't think a fourth time is going to be a charm for him either. So I'm going to go for 2-0 to Chelsea.
Awesome. Well, we all have positive, at least predictions, I think like another thing that I was thinking is I did say it would maybe be a draw, maybe be 2-1 Chelsea, and it's hard to answer this question, but like, if it was a draw, and I know a lot of like your belief of was it a point earned or 2 points lost depends on the gameplay, but would you be upset if we did draw? Would it depend on how we played? Because like I think like when you walk into a game like this, you're at home, you want to collect all 3 points. But in my opinion, man, I think if you came up to me right now and said, "Here's a point," I might take it. I might.
I mean, me personally, I'd probably be disappointed knowing that City isn't the City that they usually are because they haven't hit their stride. Their past couple performances outside of their midweek game haven't been that great. I think that a lot of them haven't been able to get that cohesion up front, especially, and really hit their stride. So I think Chelsea, especially with the run they've been having to. I was very happy when we drew against Liverpool, but going down to 10 men, I think everyone would have paid money for a point at that time. But I think if we have full 11 on 11, I think we need to get the win. And especially at home, you can't drop points against City, especially when you have an opportunity like this. The race is going to be close. Every point matters. So I personally would be disappointed if we lost at home to City, especially in the form City is in right now.
Yeah, Pat, same question to you really quick.
Yeah, I'm with Jared on this one as well. I think that I think it's going to depend really though on how the game plays out. Are there cards in it? Are there other decisions? And it really does come down to the gameplay. But the fact that we're at home and the fact that those are the games that you need to get 3 points in, and like Jared said, every point matters. I think it's going to be closer than ever. I mean, we have more than just 4 teams that are in it. You could be talking about 5 and 6 teams that are in the race. So I think it's important that you beat your rivals at home because it's a 6-pointer. And I think it's important that, especially with the kind of difficult week that City's, because I think in this coming week, it's like they're going to have City in like 8 days, you're going to have, they're going to face us, then they face PSG, and then they face Liverpool. So it's really important, I think, that we set that standard of getting 3 points against them, because that could send them on a swoon. And if they lose, they could end up as many as 9 points off the pace. And, that puts them in a really difficult position. And you can say, yeah, it's early in the season, but your early season form is what sets the tone for how you do the rest of the season, because you want to be in a good place when you hit that rough Christmas period where you're playing games every 2 to 3 days. And, you're going to, where depth of squads comes into play. And we've seen that can make or break teams. And if you have a little bit of a cushion going into those games, I think it's really important that we set the tone and get as many points as we need. So it kind of goes back to that point, Dylan, that you said of, putting them to the sword and actually trying to get those 2 goals. Because I think if we do, I have so much faith in our defense that I don't see us conceding. I don't see us conceding like 5 like we would against a West Brom. But it's just something in this case that I think that if we finally get a game against one of our big rivals at home, we have to get the 3 points.
I'm with you 100%. I agree. I would be disappointed if we got the draw. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm always trying to be more optimistic, but like at the same time, like I'm thinking like, oh, but we've won a Champions League and we're on like unbelievable form. So I think I should be a little more optimistic about the team, but we're going to do fine. We're going to collect all 3 points. It's going to be no problem. We're going to get all of our predictions right. Our lineups are all going to be correct as well. And it's going to be awesome. We're going to have a great time with it. Guys, just thanks again for coming on. I know it was kind of makeshift with the time, but we made it happen. We got some great points out. So thank you. And, you can follow these guys. I have their link to their Twitter bios below, both great follows. If you're looking for Chelsea content in general, feel free to follow me as well. Subscribe, like, comment, do it all the works on the video. Your support's just been absolutely fantastic. Also comment if you want to hear something else. If you want to, if you have any other topics that you'd like us to discuss, we're more than happy to do so. Yeah, guys, but thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, Dylan. It was a pleasure to be here. Hopefully this is the first of many. This was fun. Pat, always a pleasure. This was a great time. I love talking Chelsea every second of every day. So anytime I get an excuse to do that, I'm all for it.
Well, and just to kind of echo that, Jared, great being on with you, and Dylan, thank you again for letting me come on your channel. Like Jared, I just love talking Chelsea, and definitely an honor to be on with both of you and to talk about this upcoming game. And I can't wait for Saturday.
I know the time is just moving a little too slow. Well, thanks for viewing, everybody. We will check you out next time. Thank you, and up the Chels.
The Chels.
Up the Chels.